It's where Christianity and culture meet. This is the intersection of faith and Maine. Now, here's Greg Chandler.
As we've stood at the intersection of faith and Maine for the past episodes, we've examined topics ranging from politics to culture as relating to the people of God. Today's episode examines a topic that very much impacts culture, but perhaps does not receive as much attention as the others that have been discussed. To introduce the idea, I begin with a question. Are you old? If you had to stop and think through reasons why you might could answer no, this likely means that you are. Being old, though, is not a bad thing. In fact, as it's discussed in the Bible, it says it really should be a golden time of life. However, before we pursue these thoughts, another question is in order. If you are young, this question is for you. How do you view and treat those who are old? As we stand at the intersection today, it is imperative for us to understand the importance of both youth and old age, as well as to understand how that young and old Christians are to interact for the well-being of the other. So let's return to our first question. Are you old? One of the reasons this is sometimes difficult to answer is because culturally speaking, the beginning year of old age is not defined. In fact, in more modern times, old age has been pushed farther back by the creation of the term middle age, which recognizes that one is not young, but certainly is not ready to be considered old. In most classifications, this period of being middle age begins around the age of 40 and ends somewhere between the ages of 60 and 65. The obvious dilemma with this is the recognition that there are not many 120 to 130-year-olds walking around, meaning that the numbers are quite arbitrary. Another reason for difficulty in defining old age is the advancement of medical technology. Through groundbreaking achievements in the past century, the average lifespan has been extended, and health problems that were once fatal can now be dealt with effectively. This has given rise to phrases such as age is just a number or 60 is the new 40. The real issue that needs to be addressed is not so much assigning a year to the beginning of old age, but rather the cultural fear that those living in Western countries have toward growing old. There has been a great deal of research given to this topic, and opinions vary as to what has caused many in the West to have such an aversion to growing old. One interesting opinion was put forward in a Time magazine article. The article was entitled, "Why Americans Are Uniquely Afraid to Grow Old." It quotes Sheldon Solomon, a professor of psychology at Skidmore College, and this is what he states. "We are perhaps the most death-defying generation in human history, having grown up in surreal conditions of modernity," he says. "Our parents knew wars and depressions. We, at least, most white people, that being, saw the golden age of the American dream, the last generation of Americans certain to do better than our parents in a world that seems to be on a road of progress. We hit golf balls on the moon and have DoorDash, and so obviously the next step is eternal life." Solomon's point is simply this. There is the refusal in the minds of many to think that the final stage of life, which is death, is something that cannot be overcome. Another problem in Western culture is how old age has been portrayed. For the past 50 years, television has generally treated old age in one of two ways. One of these is that older people are portrayed as being so backward and disengaged with the current times that they are nothing more than comedic punching bags. Another is portraying older people as fighting hard not to be considered old, thus engaging in all manner of crazy youthful endeavors. Honestly speaking, would anyone want to be considered as falling into either of those stereotypes? These things have also impacted the attitudes of younger people toward those who are older. In older cultures, and even in some that are contemporary, age was and is considered something to be revered. Since few survived what would be considered old age, their life experience and wisdom was sometimes to be valued and cherished. There are many younger people in Western cultures who do respect those who are older. Still, there is a sizable segment that perhaps does not appreciate or value those older members of their society for what they can offer. While not outright disrespect, a more accurate term might be disregard. This disregard has also happened for a number of reasons, with one of these being the phenomenal growth of technology in the last 20 years. Many younger Westerners were weaned on a screen, and the advancements are, for them, somewhat commonplace, since they have known nothing other than this kind of life. This has put many younger people in the role of teacher, in helping parents, but more likely grandparents, learn how to deal with the digital world. Thus, the normal roles of imparting knowledge have been reversed. Another reason is the general prosperity that the Western nations have enjoyed in recent decades. This has allowed a segment of the younger population who are just out of college to receive very well-paying jobs. While it may have taken their parents and grandparents years to reach a level of comfortable prosperity, some now begin their careers with a good salary and the ability to live in a house that would have taken earlier generations years to afford. If not very careful, this subtle idea of being smarter than the previous generation can take hold. While we could continue on both research and anecdotal observations regarding the views of youth and old age in our culture, it is most important to see what God has to say and to understand how that older and younger Christians should be viewed in their various stages of life, as well as how they should interact. In moving to this part of our discussion, one fact needs to be observed. Biblically speaking, there is no middle age. This means that one is either young or old. In the instructions given to the two groups, God allows no room for passiveness. Both are times when work is to be done in the Lord's service. One passage where this can be observed is in Paul's writings to Titus. He writes, "Older men are to be sober-minded, dignified, self-controlled, sound in faith, in love, and in steadfastness." What stands out concerning older men is that they are to be solid, with themselves under control, and a faith that shines. Far from being curmudgeonly, they are to exude a healthy love for God and others. Older men should be the ones who have learned from the life experiences that they've had and stand as a ready source of wisdom. Very similar words are spoken of older women. Paul writes this, "Older women likewise are to be reverent in behavior, not slanderers or slaves to much wine. They are to teach what is good, and so train the young women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled, pure, working at home, kind, and submissive to their own husbands, that the word of God may not be reviled." Again, the same idea of using life experience to help others shines out in Paul's message. Specifically, they are to teach younger women how to effectively serve their families in a vital role. Note also the implication in Paul's writing that younger women are to seek out this wisdom. Finally, he instructs Titus to urge younger men to be self-controlled. Most younger men have enthusiasm and strength that can accomplish great things, but this must be harnessed and used for good. Much stands out in this rich passage on how to approach serving God no matter one's age. But I would like to note two things in particular. First, no matter the age or gender, self-control is stressed. Biblically speaking, self-control is the idea of getting oneself out of the way so that God's ways can be accomplished. This is accomplished by not falling prey to habits that will ruin one's life and diminish one's reputation. There is a very grave danger of this in our youth. Allowing drugs, alcohol, pornography, or any similar vice to have a place in our life means the great danger of allowing it to control our life. So many young men and women have learned this the hard way. It also means not allowing these things to have a place in our older years. The overuse of prescription medication can be added to the previous list as dangers we might face as we grow older. The second important point is the realization of the great gift that age gives. Young men and women who seek out the counsel and advice of older men and women will be richly rewarded. Those who have proven successful in living a godly life offer something of much greater value than a good salary. However, this requires that younger and older people spend time together and not retreat to their age-related tribes. How, though, is this done? In the 1960s, a term began to be used to show the disconnect between age and youth. In the minds of some, the generation gap could not be filled. While this term may have come about then, the idea certainly didn't begin or end in the 1960s. The Bible clearly demonstrates that this gap can be filled when those who are older and younger appreciate and accept help from the other. Let's talk about how this is done. First, for those of you who are older, it means that you must stay relevant. Dr. Becca Levy, a professor of epidemiology at Yale School of Public Health, as well as of psychology at Yale University, has noted that people who feel fatalistic about getting older may be less likely to engage in healthy behaviors such as staying active. In other words, there is the danger in old people of simply checking out, spending all day with a news channel playing in the background, or pining about growing older, or allowing depression over various issues to control the mind does not allow for this gap to be filled. Instead, older people should make friends with those who are younger. Spend time with those who need your wisdom. Now, this doesn't have to be something forced, nor does it have to be something formal. Rather, it is simply taking the opportunity to share life lessons as discussions naturally arise. For those who are younger, it is seeking out those who have something to share with you. Many older Christians are so humble that they do not believe that they have the wisdom to share. Likely, these are the very people that you want to find. These relationships can begin with something as simple as changing your seat at church. Begin sitting near older people who you may not know very well in order to begin building this relationship. It also means not limiting your hospitality to those of your own age. A good blending of older and younger people at a dinner table typically leads to wonderful discussions where good ideas can be shared. I don't know who coined the term Minturn, but it is a really good term to use whether you're young or old. It's created by merging two words together, mentor and intern. Thus, everyone, regardless of age, seeks to be both mentor and intern. Older people can share wisdom, also learning what current issues are on the minds of younger Christians. Younger Christians can find this wisdom while helping an older Christian set up a new feature on an iPhone. Working in union, the people of God are doing what the people of God are always to do: bear one another's burdens, encourage one another, and tying it all together, love one another. And should a season come where the people of God find themselves persecuted for their service to God, it will be the strength of both old and young that will help each other to stand firm and faithful. In good times and in those times of challenge, strength is found in appreciating and using the blessings that God has given us in one another. This is Greg Chandler coming to you from the intersection of Faith and Main.
Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and visit our website at faithandmainpodcast.com.